Hi, welcome to Life in a Bottle, Season 3, Episode 19. I am Kyle, back again, and this is the 2015 Florentia Chianti Reserva. So where are we? We're in Italy, obviously. We're in Tuscany, and more specifically, we are within the DOCG appellation of Chianti. This is a Reserva, so we'll get into what that means in just a little bit here. But to tell you the story behind this wine comes to us from a friend of the store named Dave. Spent quite some time in the retail industry, owned a few shops, and started realizing that he saw a lot of these private label wines that were purchased from winemakers or from brokers that were a particularly good value. They weren't big brand names, you wouldn't recognize them on the shelf, but what they were is great bang for your buck wines, where you could take a sip and be transported. The wines are killer, they're super, super delicious. But they don't come maybe with the pedigreed history that you might expect from some of the other wines that we offer. Dave decided that he was going to build his entire portfolio around wines like this. So he grabbed a couple of buddies with some pretty discerning palates, and they started picking up some of these wines, and this Florentia Chianti was one of them. And I gotta say, man, you nailed it. This is one of those value picks where you can grab this off the shelf on a Tuesday night and be completely happy with it. You can pour it for family around the grill on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and be just as happy with it. So what is it? I keep saying the word Chianti. I've said it like 37 times now. What is it? Chianti is from central Tuscany. It's a specific appellation where the wine must be comprised of at least 70% Sangiovese. Then there's a few other grapes they can throw in there. This blend in particular is comprised 90% of Sangiovese, and the remainder is 10% Canaiolo, which is a native grape to Tuscany. To clarify, this is a Chianti Reserva, not a Chianti Classico. Chianti Classico speaks to a geographic designation, a smaller region within Chianti, whereas Chianti Reserva denotes that it's an aging designation. This guy spends 2 years in barrel, which just kind of rounds all the sharp edges off the tannins, and it brings all of the complexities together. Knocks a little bit off the acidity, which at 12.5%, you might expect it to have a little bit higher acidity. But it's also 2015, so not only as a Reserva did it spend 2 years plus in barrel, but it's also spent a handful of years in bottle, which has allowed everything to just come together beautifully. So if we're going to jump in the glass here, that black cherry is the first thing that comes right out of the gate. It doesn't smell as earthy as you might expect from like a Brunello or something like that, but for Chianti, it's exactly what you want. There's a little bit of rustic edge, there's a little bit of dried herb, maybe some rosemary, thyme. The wind is blowing my wine away. And that dusty, dry earthiness too. On the palate, again, it's exactly what you want from a Chianti. You've got some great acidity, so it's going to work beautifully with foods that have a little bit of richness to them. There's a little bit of earthiness. There's a cool savory quality that I've heard a lot of people compare to tomato leaf, but that's not a flavor that I think really people want associated with their wine. But there is a little bit of a vegetal savory kind of note. On the finish, the tannin is beautiful. It's grippy, but it's not overly coarse. Again, that time in barrel and more time in bottle has just allowed those edges to be beautifully rounded over. So the tannin is there, and that finish carries, but it's not oppressive, and it's not overly coarse at all. I would pair this with anything tomato. I think that's kind of Sangiovese's claim to fame. So if you're going to do pizza or some pasta pomodoro, anything along those lines, this would be perfect. Beef, I think, is another super classic Tuscan pairing. If you're going to do a steak on the grill or burgers, it's hard to go wrong with this guy. That said, I would be just as happy pulling the cork with some prosciutto and cheese, kicking around with some buddies on an afternoon like this, where we got some beautiful sunshine, some beautiful red wine. Dave, good work. Awesome pick. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Cheers.